I'm here to ask to fund 3 full-time magistrate positions and 2 part-time magistrate positions. The magistrates are hopefully there to sign the warrants, the summons that come in from the officers, and then to set either a cite for the person accused or potentially set a bond with some conditions or even a money bond. For as long as I've been around, much longer, probably longer than anybody in this room's been around, what's gone on in the past is that during the day hours, some clerk will usually sign the warrant and then usually set either a bond or a cite or something like that. Usually it's one of the clerks that works in the clerk's office for Ms. West. In the evening, in the after hours, we have traditionally had an on-call night clerk. And the night clerk receives a call from the officer and will come in and look over the warrant or the summons, sign it, and then either cite the person or set some kind of bond. What I'm asking is that we actually have full-time magistrates that will be on call, will be at the Justice Center all the time, staffed all the time, so that when somebody is either given a citation or brought in on a criminal summons, I've got a magistrate that can first sign the warrant or the summons or whatever it might be, and then actually have a face-to-face with the person that's accused. Run through the litany of questions that the statute requires. You know, where you live, what your criminal background is, are you employed? Do you have somebody in town that will vouch for you? Take the time and run through their criminal history so that we can actually figure out who they are, whether they failed to appear in the past, whether they're a danger to the community, and they can take the time and actually make an educated decision on whether that person ought to be cited and released, or a GPS, or actually have to make a money bond. Currently, we do not have the ability to do that. We do not have the staffing to do that. And after hours, we just don't have anybody that's there. Also, and I think Ms. West can speak to this better than I can, the night clerk position traditionally has been extremely difficult to fill. Nobody wants the job. It's terrible hours. The money has never been good enough, and we are constantly having to rehire and rehire and rehire. And we right now have nobody to fill that vacancy at all. And so what I'm asking is that we actually do this. It's a similar program to what Sevier County does. I think Knox County and some of the bigger counties do it as well. That we actually have full-time magistrates who will take the time, do the job properly, and run through the statutorily required questions and do a better job than what's been done in the past, and so that we can make a better determination whether that person actually should make a money bond or be cited and released. I think Ms. West can probably speak to the money better than I can.
Right now, what they're getting paid is half of a full-time position. So they work 1 week and they get paid $450 to $500 for that week.
And they're on call. They are not at the Justice Center. And so they come in when the officer calls. And right now, they are not seeing the person accused. They're not talking to them and finding out and running through what's required by the statute to make this successful. And so we want to do a better job. We want to do a job that complies with the law. And I think that we've got to have some people at the Justice Center full-time to do this job properly.
Do you have any kind of pay scale of what that would be if they're there full time?
I think we're looking at $15 an hour.
Yeah, that's it.
Doug, do you have anybody doing this now?
We've got Houston Estes, and he's just on call at night, and he's overworked, and he can't continue to do it, is my understanding. And I can't continue to work at the pace.
Well, not full-time.
Not full-time, he is not.
He's still willing to do his shift.
Judge, what qualifies a judicial commissioner or a magistrate?
There is nothing really, honestly. You hope to pick the best person that you can, and then from there, I would prefer somebody that's got some experience and then at that point, you're training. They go to meetings. I would be responsible for some of the training, which I do already. And we would try to educate them on the questions that need to be asked and the procedures that need to be
And
followed.
as that goes, who is their supervisor at that point? Say, you know,
I'm afraid it would be me. I've never wanted any employees, but I think that if this happens, if this funded, then they would fall under my supervision.
and this seems to be, a good way to go to fill this gap and provide the needs so we can have people have that opportunity to post bail, correct?
I think that this is the best way to go, honestly.
So you're currently now doing interviews yourself? Some.
It's not really being done when the person is brought in. It's not being done. Right now, what's happening, and I'm not there at night, but what I think is happening is that the person comes in, signs the warrant, does a brief check on the person, and then makes a determination on site, bond, or some other form of relief. But they're not actually sitting there talking to the person and asking them the questions face to face. And I'm not talking about, asking the person about the details of what they're accused. I'm talking about like what's required in the statute, the factors that I've just listed. And I really think that if we're going to be in compliance with the law, that we need somebody there to look these folks in the face and ask them these questions and to do it properly that way.
Is that federal mandates?
It's really state law. It's really state law. And so it's not really being done at that time at night. And the first time anybody's really asking them questions is when I see them generally the next business day. And then I appoint them counsel, and then we start running through the history. And I've got, they fill out an affidavit, and I've got a little bit of information, but it's always sparse. It's never complete. Some of the inmates are brought in, they're, unable to, for one reason or another, to fill the thing out. So really the first time that anybody's asking them these questions, it's me the next business day. So we're having people held overnight until somebody can actually run through the questions and the inquiries that need to be made.
Will that alleviate bond hearings?
It will not. What it could do is that if somebody's there at night, let me ask, say, what's happening quite a bit now is that the clerks are not really addressing the bond at all. They're just saying hold until we can have a hearing on it. And so people are being held overnight until I can see them the next day, because at that point, I'm the only one setting the bond, if a bond needs to be set. So we're having a lot of hearings on bonds, not because the bond is too high, but simply because the bond has not yet been set. And so the first time anybody is addressing the issue of bond or cite is when I see them the following day.
So this magistrate, can they set the bonds?
They can, or they can also make the determination to cite and release. The problem right now currently is that there's about a 10-year-old attorney general opinion out there that says that once a bond has been set, when the person's been admitted to bail, nobody can change that bond by the court. And so if a magistrate sets a bond and then the person still feels that the bond is improper, then they can appeal it, and then I would be having a bond hearing on that. But it would be much, much fewer instances of having an actual appeal for a bond hearing if I've got a magistrate sitting there right at the get-go making the proper determinations.
What about like day shift? Who handles the magistrate work now?
There is none. And that's what's going on now is that a clerk in Ms. West's office is, they'll come in and they'll sign the warrants, but nobody's actually looking at the defendant. They're already downstairs.
There's enough work there to keep these three people busy on 3 different shifts.
We're coming up with some other things. I'm not exactly sure what the breakdown would be, but I think that Ms. West and we've been talking about some other duties that they could be doing in the event that there was a lull in the number of warrants that need to be signed, such as, costs and things like that you could, cost letters and some other things that would justify it.
Teresa, according to this, you're asking from us $137,574. I think you said you have $45,845 available.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
I have that in my account, which would be transferred to Judge Collins' budget because he would be in charge of the judicial commissioners. That's what the law requires.
So the new monies, where we get it?
It'd have to come from fund balance.
Fund
This year it would, yes.
Okay.
Now the estimate, the 137,000, that's for a full year. Of course, it'd be less since we're.
And then, of course, at budget time, we fund the full amount.
Now this is, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
Does she have money in there now to furnish, to get this in your fund balance, Tracy?
I have about $45,000.
That won't get it
$137,000.
done.
The rest
No,
of
we
it
don't
would have to come out
have
of
those
fund balance.
positions either.
The mayor said the rest of it would have to come out of fund balance. Like,
How hard is it for you to find somebody to fill these gaps?
I don't know. I really don't think that those night hours are gonna be too terribly desirable, but I would imagine we're gonna have a difficult time filling it.
We don't need the money until we try to get somebody hired, and, on that, right?
I would say so. By the time you get some training done and find somebody that's willing to work those hours, I would not imagine it's gonna be an easy job to fill.
It would be a matter of voting on the positions and the possibility of, and then the funds would come as that position is filled. Is that how we do that, Mayor?
my thought is go ahead, if this is what you want to do, you create positions, you fund the positions, and you spend the money when the positions are filled. If you never fill the positions, then the money's not spent. It's budgeted, but it's not spent, so it's still in the bank.
Did I hear you correctly in saying this is state law, actually?
It's been, the litany of questions that you're supposed to run through in determining whether to put a money bond or some sort of release, that's been state law for a while. And so what we're trying to do, and what every county across the state is trying to do, is to be in compliance with the state law, that before you're setting a money bond, here's what you need to do, here's what the factors that you need to consider.
All minds clear?
When do you hope to get this up and running?
I think Ms. West would say about a month ago, because we are really having trouble with that night clerk position.
It's terrible.
She gets calls all night long. The other clerks are getting calls to come in and sign those forms and stuff.
It's hard. You can do it. Feel like that? I do.
So we need to fund this for, what, 8 months
well,
to the new year?
and then at budget time,
No, I understand. It's about the month.
I move that we approve the request.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Any more discussion? Let's do a roll call.
Well, let me ask you one question. Can we have an exact figure for the 23rd?
Well, Bobby, I don't think, Mr. We will have that exact figure until we actually hire and disperse.
Well, I think he's pretty much got the exact figure if we get it hired like that.
Well, this is for a year.
Yeah, that's for a year, but I'm talking about we prorate it.
So we could calculate it, say we start October 1st. Start from the.
Thank you.
Okay, finance committee ready to vote? Can we do a roll call with finance committee, please?